Welcome, guys. Coach, we got a special guest this week. I know you love guests, and as you know, I love to bring on Bears fans. Adam Rank, how you doing tonight?
Well, I'm doing wonderful. I didn't realize this was a setup that we're trying to switch Hugh to our side, to our Chicago ways. I got to send him some Lou Malnati's. We'll send him some Portillos. We'll try. That's the way we really need to go. I don't know if our team's going to do the talking for us, but our food will.
We got a chance. You got one of my favorite quarterbacks. So I think, matter of fact, you have two quarterbacks I'm very fond of. So there's a chance.
Yeah. So, and we're going to get to both of those quarterbacks.
Okay.
But first, because, Coach is an LA guy, and I understand you were born in California. So how did you become a Bears fan?
Wait, hold on. I was born in Schaumburg, although it's a matter of scandal now. When I had to get my real ID or the passport or whatever the thing is, that'll let the PSA pre-check, I got a copy of my birth certificate. I've been walking around, for a number of years thinking I was from Schaumburg. And then I noticed my birth certificate said Hoffman Estates, and nobody recollects this. It was like, maybe it was. I'm like, what do you mean maybe it was? This is damaging to me. But my dad was a Navy guy, and he's from Illinois originally, a town called Sterling, which is actually closer to Davenport. My mom's from Oswego. So when my dad was out of the Navy, they're like, we're out. We're going to California. So I was born. I did about 4 years in Chicago, moved to the Southern California area. And I don't know if I need to tell you, but we didn't have an LA football team for quite some time. So you ended up rooting for the team that your parents liked. And Hugh, I'm sorry. And I know this is going to go up. I know it was an innocuous question that I'm turning into a 30-minute answer, like it's a 30 for 30 documentary or something. But I was just talking about this the other day. Is my dad used to like these kids today, they don't understand. You can go to a Buffalo Wild Wings and watch any game wherever. Back in the day, my dad used to drive me, and my mom's like, where are you taking him? He's like, no, we're going to this pizza place. And this tavern did serve pizza, so he wasn't lying. But we used to go to this place, El Capitan, and it was a Chicago Bears bar, and they would play Chicago every time the team. It was a lot of fun. Like, we had a great time. And so, eventually, even though, other Southern California teams, but the Bears are my team.
Okay. Well, listen, I do get it, because you're talking to a kid who grew up in Toronto with one station that only showed Bills games. So okay. I get it. And I still ended up a Bears fan. So that being said, though, Coach, I don't know if you know this, but Adam, and I hope my research was correct, because I love to research stuff, once upon a time wrote a letter to your old friend, Mr. Davis, and asked him to keep his Raiders in Oakland, I believe, correct? And not to bring them to LA?
We did not want them in Los Angeles. That was our thing. You know what? Because I'm old, and I do remember the Rams and the Raiders being a part of the Southern California football scene. I grew up in a town outside of Anaheim, so we're more partial side. Rams, Angels. Everybody likes the Lakers. Nobody likes the Clippers.
What was that?
Corona, California.
Oh, Corona, yeah.
Oh, Seatown. All right.
Oh, now, yes, I do.
He said Clippers like that's an actual basketball team. That was funny.
They're not.
Nobody's a Clippers fan. It's always funny, like going to the Freeway Series, Dodgers, Angels, and everybody's like so angry at each other. I remember a couple of years ago, these fans, these guys, we're at a ball game. Like, you're rooting for the team probably closest to where you grew up. There's no reason for acrimony. And these guys were chirping, and it was the middle of June. And I said, guys, we were just at a Lakers victory parade 4 days ago. Let's stop the bickering. Okay. Let's just root for our teams, do what we got to do. We're all Southern California people. Let's just relax. It's not the end of the world. We're not even in the same league. It's okay. Like, just be nice. And like that. So That's the way it goes. But yeah, I'm a Corona guy.
Corona
i.e.
guy.
the Inland Empire.
The Inland Empire.
And not the bad Corona that we're all trying to avoid getting now.
This was a bad year to be from Corona.
Or to like drinking Corona. They both took a bad hit.
Yes.
So I want to jump into the NFL draft. And look, we're going to do a focus on, every week we're going to try to focus on one division. We're going to focus on the NFC North this week, obviously, as two Bears fans being here. But just overall on the draft, was there any team that really stood out to you guys that was like, these guys killed it? These guys nailed this year's draft?
I really think when I look at the draft, I thought the team that there were several teams I thought did an excellent job. But because of my time in Cleveland, I thought they strengthened their team. I really did. I thought overall they did a really, really good job of nailing some pieces that I think is going to help them be a little bit better down the stretch. And I think that's going to be very important for them. When you couple that with their free agency, I think they had a tremendous draft. When I look at, again, there's so many teams, but the teams that just stand out to me, that I go, wow, this is going to be interesting. Even though I wasn't fond of San Francisco's first pick, I thought they did the right things in trying to strengthen their team as well. Now what's going to happen at quarterback? Are they going to let Jimmy Garoppolo go? What all that's going to be? That's going to tell us how it goes. But when I think of the NFC team, it was San Francisco for me. When I think of the AFC team, it was the Browns.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with the Cleveland Browns assessment. I thought their offseason was tremendous. A team that's already pretty good got a lot better. And I think, when you look at the way Cleveland finished their season, if they would have gone out and lost that game to Pittsburgh, I think people still would have felt it was a good season. Like, oh, okay, they got back to the playoffs. There's a lot of momentum building in Cleveland, but they went out there and had a big win, like an emphatic. Am I saying that word correctly? Probably not.
Emphatic.
I don't care. Emphatic, like a huge win. You know what I'm trying. Listen, I'm trying to sound fancy in front of the coach, and then I end up looking like an idiot. But I thought that they went out there and had a huge win, and they didn't look terrible in the loss to Kansas City either. So there is a lot of momentum. Like, that's a team that you look at, and I like what they've been doing over the last couple of years, and it's just been building. And when you go into a draft where you can sit where they were and just draft good football players, and like, they didn't really have a need. Like, there really wasn't a position where you're like, they have to draft this player. They could draft whoever's the best. And it just kind of, it strengthens them. And I think that we notice that with all the good teams always have a number of players that can come in at any time. The rosters are really deep, especially on both lines. And I think Cleveland has that. And for the NFC, though, if you'll allow me to be a little bit biased, I don't know that anybody had a better draft than the Chicago Bears, because Tev Jenkins, if we would have just walked out of there with him at number 20, I had resigned myself to like solid tackle. I like Andy Dalton. I'm like, okay, it's cool. Cause I didn't want to get too hyper about Justin Fields. I go, until San Francisco actually passes on him, I will not get too excited. And then you saw the momentum building. You started rationalizing it. You're like, well, Carolina did give up some picks for Sam Darnold. And then Denver, God bless Patrick Surtain, who I think can be a wonderful player. But let's go back a couple of years. The Jets took Jamal Adams, and I know he's not with the team anymore. Jamal Adams is an excellent football player. Mm-hmm. No doubt about it. But if you would ask Jets fans, let's say, and I know it's a bad example because he's not with the team, but if you would ask Jets fans, if you would rather have Patrick Mahomes or Jamal Adams, I think most people would probably lean with the quarterback. I don't know. I'm crazy.
You're right.
But I think that's what it is. And I think, and I hope Denver has that regret. I hope Patrick Surtain goes out and has a all-pro career and goes to the Hall of Fame. But at the same time, I just hope Justin Fields plays a little bit better and is the franchise quarterback. I've been looking, like, I don't know what it's like. Okay. My dad's old enough to remember Bobby Douglas. By the way, my dad used, and if anybody who ever asked why I'm the way I am, my dad used to go to Comiskey Park where the Cardinals played, and he would sit in the Cardinals section purposely to cheer for the Bears. So me being the way that I am is all on him. So I really have, I have no, it's not me. It's not my fault. It's my dad.
That's what my therapist tells me all the time. So I get it.
That's my dad. And so, when you look at it, I always joke about the best Bears quarterbacks of my lifetime are Jim McMahon, Jay Cutler, and Walter Payton on the halfback option. And that's it. The list stops.
He was good. Hey, his halfback option, he was good.
So good.
So since we're talking about, because I think a lot of us would have thought Bears taking Jenkins at 20. I think that was
great. Would have been a great pick.
Would have been, great. We need some help on the offensive line. So let's start there, right? We want to dive into the NFC North. I was going to start at the bottom with the Lions, but okay, let's start with the Bears since we're talking Bears. Coach was on with me. He was kind enough to jump on just as the Bears made that trade. We were doing like a live coverage of the draft, and he saw my reaction to Justin Fields. Obviously, I tried to hold it in. I could not. I think I was running around in circles over here, ran into the wall. That was a great, right? They didn't give up too much. They picked up Justin Fields. Coach has been telling me he's high on Fields. I had him as the second highest ranked QB in the draft. So to get him at that position, I think is huge. They also did themselves some favors being able to get Jenkins in the second round.
Yeah.
Was there any of the later picks that kind of stood out to you as well?
I stopped paying attention. I lost my mind. The one thing about Ryan Pace, I will say, is that obviously he's going to be known for taking Mitch Trubisky, which again, like go back and look at the draft picks of like the Mel Kipers and all those guys. Daniel Jeremiah was the only one, to my knowledge, of the bigger sites. I'm sure there were people around in the Draft Network or somebody like that who had Deshaun Watson ahead of Trubisky, which is the way that I had it. And so obviously that pick did not work out, and that's going to be something that is going to hang over him for quite some time. But Pace has done such a nice job, with guys like Eddie Jackson. And a lot of these, Jalen Johnson, I thought was a great pick last year. A guy who should have gone in the first round, had a knee injury. He falls to the second. He scoops him up. I think we'll see that with Jenkins this year. Darnell Mooney is another guy. Even Anthony Miller. Yeah. I think we're gonna see a good season out of Anthony Miller, because I think once you go on notice that you were not only were you on the trade block, nobody wanted you. So hopefully, and Anthony Miller is a talented player. I hope that he puts it all together, because if he does, it's a bonus. And I think David Montgomery was a pretty good pick too. So I think that he does a nice job. Like obviously that Mitch Trubisky, like, okay, like that's going to be the one.
He made the one big mistake, but if you look at the rest of the roster, look, I am biased, of course, but it looks good, right? You got Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, although obviously with his brother, what happened this past week, but awful. He's set to come back if he can, deal with that. It's tough when you're dealing with something like that, but Allen Robinson's back, although he necessarily wasn't happy.
I think he's happier now.
I think he's happier now. You got Mooney, Miller, Kemet probably will take a step forward. I hope. Improved offensive line. Like there's some weapons there. So you feel, and the defense, played below kind of expectations last year. So if they can pick it up, I'm feeling good.
Well, if you have an offense that can move the football,
it does make the defense better.
They have to be perfect. That's the problem. It's like, we just want to have a quarterback who can go out there that, number one, if we fall behind, I know. I feel embarrassed saying that with coach here, but like, if we fall behind by 7, you're like, well, this game's over. And now we have with both the quarter, even Nick Foles, I don't think is terrible, but like Andy Dalton has more fourth quarter comebacks than Aaron Rodgers.
I saw that stat the other day. Yeah.
I know that Rodgers doesn't fall behind a lot, but still, like, I think people, I don't know. I don't think they give enough credit to Andy Dalton, and it kind of bugs me. I mean, I know I'm as guilty of it as anybody, but to my credit, we are in the mix for Russell Wilson, and I can't help, like, if you're excited about like Russell, that's a different level. That's like, and I didn't expect to be there. Like, he called out our name, like he said us, like, oh, really? Like, that's when you take notice. Like, I would never think that I would have a shot with Gal Gadot, but if she ever came out and said, listen, I might divorce my husband, and of the 4 people in the world who I would, move on to next, Adam Rank is one of them, I would tell my wife to leave. I'd be like, you got to move out. Like, I'm sorry. We might get Gal Gadot. I'm sorry. You understand.
You're going all in. You're going all in
right now. Adam, is she following your podcast?
She is not listening.
She's talented. Yeah, she's actually heard this before. She's overheard. One time I left the window open when I was doing this, and she's like, now the whole neighborhood knows. I'm like, everybody knows. Like, what do you want me to do?
There you go.
Like, so you wouldn't do the same thing for Randy Orton? Like, we have these levels.
I don't know that we have time to do the wrestling thing, Adam, but we probably should because we both picked our favorite wrestlers and it was Macho Man. But that's another conversation.
Oh yeah,
another day. So with Dalton, right? Let's go back there. By the way, the stat I saw was that he had more fourth quarter comebacks than Aaron Rodgers and less NFC Championship game losses as well.
Oh,
a big win.
No, you didn't.
They totally.
I love the meme. I love the meme with him and Rex Grossman, where it's like just a couple of guys with one NFC Championship apiece.
Not wrong. So, coach, do they start Dalton? I know you said Dalton. Yeah, you know him, right? Good guy, will mentor Fields, but he probably starts week 1, right? Dalton.
I think so. I think he does. I think it'd be too much pressure to put on the young kid right away to start. I think
they got a Sunday night game too, right, against the Rams, I believe, to start the season.
I cannot hold the schedule is not out. I cannot acknowledge any rumors. For the record, I have no knowledge of what games of anything
that means
what you might have heard on the internet. I don't know.
That means he knows them all.
I mean, he knows them all, and we're going to try and get it. You know, we got to send him. I don't know if you know this. Coach is a co-owner of Grand Leanda Tequila. So we probably should have sent him a bottle down. We probably could have got him to talk.
Absolutely.
If we were drinking some.
But no, I think Andy will start the season. I think Justin will play. There's no question. I think they're going to need him to play. They need to know what they have. I think this is a pivotal season for Pace and the head coach. I think they need to show marked improvement in order for them to stay around, or somebody else will be coaching Justin Fields. And so, but I think Justin Fields is the right quarterback for the organization at the right time. I think he'll have a good mentor in Andy until he takes it over. But I do see him taking it over this year.
What do they do though? Because when I look at it, and let's assume, or let's pretend that Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a member of the Green Bay Packers. I would think the Bears are the best team in the division if that happens. And if I look at the teams that they're going up against, and it's conceivable that they win 10 games. They could go 10-7, for instance. And I think that there could be a scenario where, Andy Dalton's playing well. Like, what do you do? I know the Giants famously were 5-4 when they benched Kurt Warner for Eli Manning. Do you think the Bears would get into a situation like that? Would they play for the playoffs? Or do you think they'd be like, okay, thanks, Andy. You got us to a good point of the season, but now we're turning it over to Justin Fields.
Oh, absolutely they could. Because if you think that he's going to help you win more games, if he displays something, in his talent, that's going to elevate the team. One thing about players, you can't fool the players. If this guy's in practice making plays after plays after plays, they're going to want him out there. I mean, that's why you drafted him. So, I can see those things happening for sure.
So you don't think, obviously, I think Pace and Nagy obviously are on the hot seat, if not the warm seat. I think the hot seat. You don't think they slow play it kind of like Kansas City did with Mahomes, where they just kind of play him the last week of the season if things are going well, just to see what they have and prep him for next year? You think?
Yeah, I think the difference is there's Alex Smith. Yeah. The Alex Smith to Andy Dalton. And like I said, I coach Andy personally. Andy could be the player they're looking for. But I think there's a certain way you have to coach Andy to get it out of it. And hopefully they do have someone who was there with him in Cincinnati, not when he was having his best year, but when he had some good years, and hopefully he can get that out of it. And I think that was the problem at Dallas. I don't think Andy's a bad player by any stretch. I think there's a certain environment you have to create for Andy in order for him to be successful. And if you do that, and if they understand that, then he'll be fine. But if they don't, you'll be playing the other player, because the other player is an alpha. And he does have those qualities. And that's what that team needs. That team needs a quarterback to step forward and really assume the leadership role and make plays and look like they're the leader. And if they do, they got a chance to be, as you said, one of the better teams in that division. But I will still tell everybody, watch out for the Vikings this year. Because the Vikings, every odd year, has played extremely well under Mike Zimmer and made it to the playoffs. So that's dark horse in that division.
So, when you're done with Tennessee State on Saturday night, we'll get you on the phone with Bill in Chicago on Sunday to help out with Andy. You brought up Aaron Rodgers, obviously. I know no one knows the real answer. Denver's now popped up as a possible landing situation. If you were betting men, Rodgers in Green Bay, Rodgers somewhere else to start next season.
I think it's going to be Rodgers somewhere else, just from all the things I'm hearing. He really wants out. I think he feels kind of disrespected. And I think he's seen more athletes, not just in the NFL, but more athletes, NBA, baseball. People are starting to end their careers where they want to. They're starting to put themselves in position where they want to be. And I think he's testing that as much as he can. And will there be a point where somebody's going to, I think they already kind of dug in right now. I think he's dug in, they've dug in. Somebody has to give. And the Packers made a decision to draft a quarterback, in the first round. And either you got to say you made the right decision or you didn't. So Aaron can be really stubborn. I think we all know that. And that's what he's doing right now. You
agree, Adam? He's probably gone.
I encourage you. I encourage you.
I'll buy him a ticket.
I know.
Don't. I tweet him every day. I said, don't let them tell you what to do, Aaron. You dig in on this organization. You made the Packers.
You do it.
I got to start doing that. I got to start. Yeah.
Make sure that you find him a new place and pay him to leave. I know.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'll drive him. I'll move out. I'll take the U-Haul, drive across the country, wherever you want to go. You want to go to Denver? Fine. Let's go. Go to Las Vegas? You're in.
I've lived in Denver. I will find him a nice spot. I know how to drive through those hills with a moving van. I am ready. I'm ready to help him.
I just don't know how the Packers go through this again. How did you maybe it's you, Packers. You keep getting these Hall of Fame quarterbacks and you get one Super Bowl out of them. And then it ends so terribly. And I know that other teams, I know that it's happened to Joe Montana. It's happened to a lot. It happened to Jay Cutler, all the greats. Oh, no, I'm just kidding. But even Peyton Manning had to go to Denver.
Yeah.
And so at some point, it's funny, because we were talking about that. And obviously when Peyton won his ring, it was his final season. And he was not the same player that he was, but he was so good his first couple of years in Denver. Obviously they got blown out in the Super Bowl against Seattle, but he was so good. And I think that wherever Aaron goes, it's going to be that kind of situation. Last year was a laugh. And I still remember trying to tell people, and this coming from a fantasy idiot like myself, of this guy's upset and he's going to have the best year of his career. And I remember arguing with somebody they're not motivated like that. I'm like, okay, even if they're not, Aaron Rodgers is. And I just know that last year was completely predictable. If he goes to Denver, he's throwing 60 touchdowns. There's no doubt in my mind. And I don't care if KJ Hamler catches 20 of them. Noah Fant gets 15. I don't care. He's throwing 60. It's going to be crazy. I almost want him to just, why don't you just hold out though? Why don't you just hang out, go host
a lot of reasons why I think Aaron would want to do that. He's always been compared to Tom, but he's not compared to Tom. They're both from Southern California. From the Bay Area, I should say. Area. And you look at it, and Tom just went to Tampa Bay and won. Aaron would love to have that, as being part of the legacy. I don't know that that's going to happen. And you said it best. Some of the best quarterbacks played in Green Bay, and they won one Super Bowl. Okay, so did he really have the season he wanted to have last year? Maybe to us as fans, we were very impressed with his numbers.
My fantasy team,
he was, and I think he was so disappointed because he felt in order for him to raise who he was within the league, he needed to go win a Super Bowl or be in that game, and he wasn't. So, and Tom Brady just new team, new opportunity, different players, put them together and won it again. So if I'm Aaron, I'd be pissed too. At some point in time, I want to walk out of here feeling good, like I really had an impact. Because everybody, when you talk about Aaron Rodgers, you talk about one of the greatest quarterbacks that have ever played a game. He hadn't won a lot. He hadn't won one Super Bowl. That's it.
Yeah. He's only been to one. And it's crazy.
That's the surprising thing for how good he is. And then, you also hear stuff like, hey, Tom went to Tampa, got to call a couple of his own shots, right? They didn't want Antonio Brown. He got Antonio Brown. He wanted Gronk. He got Gronk. And now Aaron's sitting there
and
going,
Fournette.
Hey, and Fournette, right. I need some help. And really, let's be honest, they're not giving him. I get it. You got Devontae Adams. That's fantastic. But I know that he looks at himself on that same level as Tom and says, hey, I want to be able to call some of those shots too. I get it.
And Tampa Bay already had Godwin, Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, Ronald Jones is a fine player. But they went above and beyond. I do wonder though, how come we never, it seems like Tom Brady makes a call, Gronk shows up, Antonio Brown wants to be there. Where are the guys wanting to play in Green Bay? Why don't we see more players? I can't think of Aaron Jones, who was somebody who re-signed with the team. I can't think of anybody. You would think for as good as Aaron Rodgers was, because I know the Packer fans will make fun of Allen Robinson for you could have come here. I'm why didn't he? What is it? Why didn't he want to play in Green Bay? There's got to be something going on. I don't know. I'm saying that as a conspiracy.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I think there's a couple of things. I think one, when you think of Tom Brady, he has enough skins on the wall with championships.
Mm-hmm.
He's been there, and man, you want to be a part of that. Aaron doesn't have that. Aaron's kind of an aloof, let's just be honest. And I think he's seen that way. And I think people know that if he gets down on you, he's down on you. And if he's with you, he's with you. One thing about Tom, he might be down on you. He might go after you in the game, but he's going to let it go, because if he thinks you can help him win, he's going to use you. He's just not going to shut out. And Aaron has that kind of personality. And I think that's known. And so people are picking and choosing. And then you're looking at it, and it goes back to the same thing. You've won one of them. Tom now has 7. It's I'm going to play with that guy. That's what happens.
He has 7, and he's probably a couple catches away from having a couple more too. Let's be honest. So
it's great, and it's even when you think back to I always thought that the Super Bowl 50, when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl, I thought that Bill Belichick actually had a couple of missteps in that game. And one of them was because Gostkowski missed an extra point early, and he didn't settle for field goals when he could have. And at the end of the game, you're like, Bill, if you would have not gone for, I know we're getting into the weeds, but I'm there's a couple times, or even the Super Bowl that Peyton won as a member of the Colts, the Patriots were winning that championship game 21-3, or they were up to a huge lead and blew that one. And I know, again, I hate to think of this as a Bears fan, but Tom Brady probably would have beat Devin Hester too. That's what I'm saying. I'm not even acknowledging Rex Grossman.
The Chicago Hesters.
You know what? They wouldn't have even kicked to Devin Hester. We wouldn't have even had that touchdown. Would have been so bad. But there's a lot of things you're gosh, Tom could have really had a lot more. And then he goes to the NFC, spends 1 year there, has as many Super Bowl titles in the NFC as Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. So you touched on Minnesota. Do you really think this odd year thing is going to work out for them? Have they put a team together? Right? They drafted. I know they drafted someone that you really like, right, Coach? Didn't they?
Yeah,
Kellen Mond. I know obviously backup Kirk Cousins.
Yes.
But do the other pieces you think put them in a place where, especially, listen, we're assuming that the Packers don't have Aaron Rodgers. We're assuming that they take a couple of steps back, right, in the division, so it's up for grabs, right? We like the Bears because we have to. And Vikings, do you think they have enough pieces to also make that run this year?
I do, Anthony K, and I tell you why. They're returning a lot of injured players. Anthony Barr, Hunter. I mean, those guys are really good players. I mean, I think people don't put enough conversation into when you lose your top line guys, who the backups are. They're not the same. And that's why those guys get paid the way they get paid. So they lost some very impactful players on their team last year. But the one guy they didn't lose, they lost him for a week or so, was the running back. He's as good as there is in football. Yeah. And I think the biggest question I have about the Vikings this year is a new coordinator, because he's never really called a game. He's watched his dad do it. I'm sure he's been a part of the process. But having that pressure of making those calls, play in and play out, that's going to be the biggest telltale sign for the Vikings. But I think, do they have enough talent? They have enough. They're good at receiver. Kirk Cousins is Kirk Cousins. I think they've improved on the offensive line. They get these defensive players back. They're going to be they're going to be always good on defense. They have been. They wasn't as good last year, too many injuries. So I think they're going to be involved this year if they can stay healthy.
All right. Well, let's hope not. Adam, do you agree with that?
No, I think they're garbage. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. That's the fan in me talking. The Vikings are the biggest wild card to me. If they're all healthy and Dalvin Cook continues to play the way that he does, yeah, there's a lot of good things. Justin Jefferson was such a good pick. I'm going to be mad at Philadelphia forever, not only for the double doink, but it's like, oh my gosh, it was so nice to get Stephon Diggs out of the division. He was one of my favorite players. I hated how much I liked him, and he was a Viking, and it always bothered me. And he got sent to Buffalo. So it's like, cool, I can be a huge fan of his now. And then the one I thought that they would, Philadelphia was there. Take Justin Jefferson. Why would you want any other? And Jalen Reagor can come out and be the best player that he could be. He's not going to be better than Justin Jefferson. That was such an easy call. Like, listen to me. I know. Listen, I make mistakes too, but Justin Jefferson is so good. I'm really annoyed by them. So I do. And Thielen's good. So they have a lot of ability. I'm hopeful. Like, I'm wish casting that they're not going to be as good. And when I do my predictions, I'll predict them for a bad record because it's what I do. Yeah. And I love making fun of the Vikings fans. It's, we all bond together in hating Green Bay, but at the same time, I still like tweaking the Vikings fans because they get so. I have friends who are Vikings fans, so I love teasing them.
Oh, not me. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up another team because friend of the show, Cynthia Freeland, Lions fan.
The Lions.
So I'll give you a minute on the Lions. I was kind of surprised with their pick. Like, don't get me wrong. Sewell's a great, the highest ranked offensive lineman. And I thought it would have made more sense if the Bengals picked him up. He drops to the Lions, who already have a left tackle. They're going to shift him to the right.
No, they got a good line though.
They absolutely. So does
Ragnow is one of the best.
Yeah. Do they have enough pieces, or is this just the line? Like Goff, I guess, being in there.
They finally got a great line for Matthew Stafford, who's probably. Oh wait, no, they got rid of him.
Just in time.
You got Goff, who I always like to refer to as West Coast Trubisky. A guy like he's less athletic. I know I shouldn't be dragging players like this. He's a nice person. I just don't like. Whenever I make fun of Goff, and when people get upset at me, I'm like, well, I'm just taking the word of Sean McVay, who traded him away. Like that's my ultimate thing. Like, the guy who knows him the best is Sean McVay, and he decided he didn't want to play with him, and he went to a Super Bowl with the Rams. And I know that I look at a lot of things from a fantasy perspective, and I say, hey, his points dropped over the last 2 years. Anytime. And I don't know if this is a McVay philosophy or if this is just the way that he had to handle Jared Goff, but anytime they got inside the 10, they ran it almost every time. I mean, Gurley, you're like, okay. And when Gurley left and he went to Atlanta, you're like, okay, well, now they'll let Goff go to, no, they're like Malcolm Brown, Daryl, like guys you'd never, like a lot of the common folk had never heard of, like Malcolm Brown, Darrell Henderson. Like, we'll give you we would rather give the ball to you than to let Jared Goff handle this thing when they get near the goal line.
I think that's a coaching problem. And I'm not trying to sit up here and stick up for Jared, but that sounds like a coaching problem to me. You get in 10 and you keep doing the same things you've been doing since you had Todd Gurley. Now you're doing it with the same running backs. That don't say it's a quarterback issue. That says that's your comfort level to me.
I hate to say it,
but that doesn't fit my narrative, though.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
Genius Sean McVay, right?
What bothers me, the great Sean McVay, is now being a little exposed. Let's just be honest there. And so now it's easy to go push that on the quarterback and get him out of there. And at the end of the day, he did take him to a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. What happened to the offense in the Super Bowl? I mean, they couldn't do anything. So again, it's so amazing how the narratives that get spun, I should say, because you look at it, everybody says it's Goff. But what about the coach? I mean, he was Wonder Boy at one time. So what happened to this genius who's supposed to be one of the best ever in the history of the league, that all of a sudden it is disappointing to watch a quarterback come back with a bad thumb, play for you, go out there and bust his butt for you, and then you say, oh, by the way, I'm going to let you go. I'm done with you.
So what happened to the genius Sean McVay, coach? Did he get too
Belichick?
well, yeah, but did he get too conservative? Did he stop? Like, he's supposed to be a genius. Why is he just?
Well, when I hear the announcers, he's never not been still the great Sean McVay. But you have
reality. We talk reality on this show, right? We talk reality.
Well, we haven't seen any of that. There was never any magic to what it was anyway. I mean, let's just be honest. There were good players. There were good players that were making plays, and this was a new identity for the Rams. And now all of a sudden that's been exposed. People know who they are. People know there's a book on you. People know who you are, how you do things, how you go about it. They start to slow you down. That's why that thing of the greatest and the master and the whatever he's supposed to be the greatest. You got to be very careful throwing those kind of titles around, because this league will bring you to your knees.
All right. Yeah, and it feels like too that they're going to be out of excuses. I mean, you can't. It's kind of, if you don't do it with Matthew Stafford, then at some point you're like, well, then it's going to end up being you. And that's what I like for players too. Like Sam Darnold is going to Carolina. Now, obviously, people will be like, well, Ryan Tannehill, when he got away from Adam Gase, went out there, became an all-pro quarterback, and that's fine. Well, now you're in Carolina and you're playing with Joe Brady and Matt Rule. Like, I love Sam. I remember watching him at San Clemente High School and onto USC, and I love him. And it's like, but here's my thing, and I'll be real. You're out of excuses, Sam. You've got to show that you can play on this level. Otherwise, you're going to make a lot of money holding a clipboard for the rest of your life, which is.
I think your point is well taken, and I really believe he will. I think sometimes.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah,
and they've gone all in on him, right? They got rid of.
Huge.
I think guys to change the scenery, a different voice. I don't think anybody ever thinks about the human side of these players of high value walk into the National Football League as young men, especially quarterbacks, with all this pressure in New York, media, everything, and he had no help. See, when you say, well, Sam, it's on you now, it is. But boy, let's go back and see what help he had when he was in New York.
Listen, I'm with you. I don't disagree with any of that.
And now he has a chance. So you said it. So this is your best chance. So you need to take advantage of this. So whoever's dealing with him on a mental health situation need to get him back to where he needs to be. Same thing we're talking about Carson Wentz right now. All these guys need to be repropped back up and put in position where they can have success.
I agree. You said it much more eloquently than I did. I was just saying
he tends to do that.
It is his best chance. I love Sam. By the way, the first time I ever met Sam Darnold was at some event, and I sat down with him and I looked right at him and I go, do you hate Tesoro High School? And his eyes lit up. He's like, I do. I'm like, right? Like, they're the worst. He's like, everybody thinks we'd hate Mission Viejo. He's like, I hated Tesoro. And I know we're losing the whole audience. Is like, who are these high schools? But it was like, we had like the best conversation just because I knew that he didn't, because I knew that he had lost to Tesoro in the playoffs.
The closest I came is when I lived in Newport, so I maybe drove by some of them. That's about it.
Good. Yeah, Tesoro's right. That's South County.
That's right there.
So I'm gonna read out some names, okay? And Adam and Coach, you'll both immediately know this list that I'm giving you. But Doug Williams, Ed Too Tall Jones, Nate Newton, Michael Strahan, Shannon Sharp, Richard Dent, Jerry Rice, Deacon Jones, and of course, my all-time favorite, Walter Payton. Do you know what they all have in common?
HBCUs.
So, Adam, I saw you put a list together, the 30. I read through all of those.
You did. Okay.
Coach obviously is going to be the OC at Tennessee State starting this year. So obviously it's something that's important that we want to talk about. However, Deion Sanders posted this, 259 draft picks, 0 from an HBCU this year. Does it surprise you? And is it something on the draftees or the drafters that there was 0?
Oh, yeah. No, it doesn't surprise me. But it's definitely the drafters for sure. Yeah. I mean, there's very talented players throughout the country, just like recruiting. I mean, it's no different. If Tim Tebow can come back and play right now and get a contract, and go play tight end when he's never played tight end before. That's got to tell you something. And so there is a young man out there somewhere that played at HBCU, whether he's black or white, doesn't matter, who's talented enough to have that opportunity that Tim Tebow is getting in Jacksonville. You know, so that to me says it all, you know, and again, until I'm coaching this league with Eddie George. I did it for Eddie. And once I made the decision, I started to investigate exactly what's happened with the HBCU schools. And for whatever reason, they don't get the attention they deserve. At one time, that's where some of the greatest players, you just named some of the greatest to ever play the game. That's where they came from. Yeah. And now all of a sudden, it's like there's no players there. And I'm shocked. The tape I've watched, I've seen some very good players. Are people going to go to Alabama first? Absolutely. We get all those first round draft picks. But you can't tell me there's not one or two players from the HBCU who doesn't have a chance to play in the National Football League.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, with everything that happened this past year, you know, with COVID and everything, that people are probably trying to use it as a cop-out, like, well, we didn't get an opportunity. There wasn't a real combine or anything like that. I just don't understand why these teams, especially if you're a team that's looking for, like, that needs talent, like why you're not spending more resources trying to dominate, finding players, finding undrafted players. Like, you'll probably be able to find undrafted players at that level and go out there. I was thinking about the Saints situation, and maybe they did. I got to go through their undrafted free agent list, but you're in the hotbed of it. And they were in salary cap hell, and they had to lose so many players. They had to let so many great players go. These are the kind of places you should be going to. Like, you should be trying to find these players because they're out there and there's great players. And by the way, when you read off that list, one of my favorite that you did not mention was Marion Motley. But going through and finding a lot of those players and those, and I don't know, I think it's a mistake. And I think that, you know, and the Tebow thing bothers me. I know it's more on Urban Meyer than it is on the person, but just like, why are you not being more proactive? Like, that's the thing that upsets me the most. It's like, why is the team I'm rooting for not being like, you found Walter Payton? Obviously Walter Payton was a 4th overall selection, but like, you have had success in this arena before. Why aren't you using this? Like, the players are there.
It's interesting, right? It's interesting because they'll find players they'll give Tim Tebow a shot, which that does bother me. And I don't think he's even going to make the roster. I know why he's getting that chance, right? It's the connection with Urban Meyer.
He has a better chance of showing up at AEW Dynamite than he does.
You're just going to put wrestling in there one way or another. But no, they'll find rugby players. They'll find people from other sports, and you're telling me you can't find people right there in front of you who are playing this sport that not one of them was draft eligible, like you said, an undrafted player. It blows my mind. And I'm taking your list, by the way, so I'm posting one a day, and I'm trying to like promote it and get people to know. And obviously, coach guys like Eddie George and Deion Sanders. Deion obviously is out there making a lot of noise about HBCUs and the importance of them. And so I think it's you guys, coach, that are going to make that difference, is bringing, people's attention to it. But when I saw that zero draft, it blew my mind. I was so surprised.
It's terrible. And also, you know what? I know that Kenny Washington doesn't go on the list because UCLA does not fall into that category, but UCLA was open to Black athletes, obviously, with Jackie Robinson and Kenny Washington and Woody Strode. And so I always kind of wish that he was in that list too. And then he didn't get a chance to play professional football until the Rams wanted to relocate from Cleveland. And the LA Coliseum Commission said, you cannot use our stadium unless you're integrated. And so there was an unspoken ban, like not as bad as baseball, but there was an unspoken ban. And Kenny Washington was the player, and him and Woody Strode were the players who broke that tradition in the NFL. Because I know obviously Marion Motley was playing for the Cleveland Browns, but the Browns were part of the AAFC at the time. And Paul Brown wrote his own rules. So he was,
yes, he did.
He was going to bring in everybody who could play football.
Isn't
that, I know it's utopian. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? Bring in the best players, the best coaches, the best coordinators, regardless, right? Male, female, black, white. Isn't that the point?
Doesn't work that way.
I know it doesn't, but
right. No, it's supposed to be.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Yeah. It's disappointing when it doesn't. I think, like you said, there's going to be more. I think what Deion did for HBCUs is make people more aware, that, boy, this is really going on. It'd be hard this year for them just to shut everybody out. You now have, Eddie George involved. I'm involved. There's going to be other NFL coaches who have played in the National Football League and coached in the National Football League that will be over there that could say, hey, look, these players can play. So I think the more noise you can make that way, the better chance that you have of getting that part turned. And I think it will, because at the end of the day, you said it best. You think every organization is looking for the best player. They're not just looking for a player. They're looking for the best player, the best fit for the organization. And there has to be somebody from HBCU who can do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to yell it from the rooftops until I'm blue in the face, Coach. So I'm going to end with this, because Coach, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, is throwing his hat into the fantasy ring.
What?
And Adam, you've helped me to multiple second place finishes.
Yeah,
so is there any, what's the fantasy advice that we need to look out, whether it's a early sleeper, hey, something we need to do to maybe get me a win. Maybe get me a win. I can't lose in the finals every year. I need a win.
Oh, I went 0 for 6. And I was sitting there. I was playing in a league with these kids or adults, but my friends in Great Britain. And we were in a standard league. And I had a 28-point lead on Stephon Diggs. And I'm like, well, like PPR, points per reception, I would feel worried. But like, there's no way Stephon Diggs is going to get 28 in standard. Of course he did. And I lost. So I lost a bunch of them. It's so disappointing to me last year, because one of the things that's become hot that people talk about all the time is last year I was the only person who advocated. Obviously, you go running backs, your first 5, 6, 7 picks. I said your first pass catcher off the board should be Travis Kelce, because the drop off from Kelce to the number 2 guy is way more significant than going from Michael Thomas to Devontae Adams or DeAndre Hopkins or something like that. I know that Michael Thomas was injured last year and that kind of skewed that, but I said, take it. And in a lot of my teams, I started off with Kelce. Nobody wanted Devontae Adams. So I happily scooped him up, made some bad calls with the running backs, but that happens. But yeah, don't be afraid to zig when everybody else is zagging. And so if you want to do something a little bit crazy. Oh, and Jonathan Taylor of the Indianapolis Colts is a player who I love this year.
Me too. And I'll tell you, I saw your mock, and I think you took Kelce in like the second or third, or maybe it was.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah, these guys.
You took him really early in your mock there. So
a lot of people were just afraid of it. It's an unnatural thing, and it just feels weird to do it. But I'm like, I'm crazy. I'll do what I want.
I have to win this year, because the league that I'm the commissioner in, out of the 5 or 6 I play in, I'm a commissioner in 1, and my wife won last year. So we cannot let that happen again. We cannot.
That's the worst. Think about me though. Like whenever I'm playing in these leagues, I'm always against everybody. Nobody wants to trade with me. Like if I do anything, like people they won't make a trade. Like I'd offer them, I'd be like, hey, I will, I'll give you a kicker. Although Young Wei Koo was awesome, but like, I'll trade you Rodrigo Blankenship, or I'll give you Devontae Adams for Rodrigo Blankenship. They'd be like, no, I'm not taking that deal. Like, what's up? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, it's just, I'm trying to help you out. But they do. And I know this for a fact. It's like every time I pick up a guy off the waiver wire, like if I pick up Jeff Wilson Jr. or Myles Gaskin or somebody like that in their other leagues, they're making the same moves. And they come back like, hey, thanks for that.
I traded Le'Veon Bell the year that he sat out right before the season started, and no one will trade with me ever since. So I feel your pain.
I will tell you, I was in a league the year that I did it again. The Saturday we got Khalil Mack. I had the number 1 overall pick, and one of my friends had changed his team name to Mackless Raiders. And I'm like, oh, what happened? Did he get traded? And my friend's like, shut up. I'm like, no. What happened? He's like, forget you. I'm cleaning this up. And it was like, no. What team's he playing for? He's like, I will never talk to you again. I'm like, is he on the bench? So I had to stop it. I wasn't paying attention. So the draft started. I got auto picked Le'Veon Bell, and I lost that year because of that.
Yeah.
But we got Khalil Mack, so I feel like
that's fine.
It's fine.
So, Coach, you're diving into fantasy, right?
Yes, I'm supposed to dive in. I got to see what my responsibility will be, because obviously my first opportunity is to do what I got to do for TSU. But I am in right now.
If I can help out with anything, let me know.
I was gonna say I'll read what Adam writes and then I'll send you the good
whatever.
All right,
Love it.
We have 2 minutes left, so I am gonna ask you one more question because you've been infusing wrestling.
Oh, jeez.
Anything you want to say about anything wrestling related?
Oh, wrestling. I think it's just such a fun time to be a fan of professional wrestling because there's so many options for you out there. And I will say I appreciate what Tony Khan has done where, he's gone out and built his own wrestling organization. And it's amazing just to see what he's been able to do. And it's been fun to follow along with him. And I think that he's doing it the right way. He's a nice guy. And they're doing the thing with Impact Wrestling, which is awesome too. And I think that that's what we as fans want. Like the WWE always wants us to act like like anytime somebody shows up, like when Kenta showed up in WWE, we had to pretend like that wasn't Kenta. It was Hideo Nakamura. Like, come on, like that's ridiculous. We know who this person is, but Tony's done a great job. So I appreciate him and I thank him. And again, Tim Tebow, more likely to be in All Out than he's ever going to be in a Jags uniform.
In a Jags uniform? All right. I sent you, I don't know if you saw it. Someone asked me to tell them my favorite wrestler without telling them my favorite wrestler, and I did my worst Macho Man impression. So
don't do that anymore.
You saw that. It was bad. All right. Coach, any final words before we let you go?
No, this has been awesome. Obviously, the fantasy football is a big thing. That's what I'm finding out.
Yeah, people love it.
Oh yeah. It's we're obsessed. I've watched more games. I always watched a lot of football, but once I got into fantasy, I watched more games, more football, and I cared about your third round running back more than I've ever cared about in my entire life. So it's a great way for people, especially for people who don't watch football. Right, to really get into the game and start to understand a little bit. And I've had conversation with people say, hey, I started to do this fantasy thing, and now I actually like watching games, not just on the fantasy side. So yeah, it's good.
A couple of years ago, I was at the D in Las Vegas. It was the night when Derrick Henry had that 99-yard run.
Woo!
There were so many people at the bar watching this blowout, thrilled, captivated. And the only reason why, because they had Derrick Henry on their fantasy team. They wanted to see how many points he was going to get them.
Yeah, he carried me to a beautiful second place finish last year.
Dang it.
Can't get over the hump. All right, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Appreciate you.
Take care. Be safe, and we'll talk soon.